I want to talk to you about something called impression management that I get to talk about, a lot when I, run my workshops and that. So impression management is when people are suppressing their emotions, and at the same time they are smiling about what is happening. And you ask them in meetings, is everything okay? Are you guys well? They say, yes, we're fine. Do you guys understand? Do you have any question? Oh no, we are fine. We're just fine. Now, that is what is called impression management, because they are suppressing those emotions of fear. They are suppressing those emotions of anger. They are suppressing those emotions of sadness. Now, what happens, studies in psychology, even in neuroscience and in science, holistically, what has been found was that the weight and the amount of damage that is caused by suppressing emotions is higher than when you are able to express them. Now, what does that mean? It simply means that in the brain, when you look at your frontal cortex, especially the prefrontal cortex, which is this front part of the brain here, this is where we process things like strategy, like planning. We do executive controls of the brain. And this is where we get to do things like self-control. And we do things like inhibition control as well, where we talk about controlling ourselves and controlling all the, like when we talk about things like, that just want to take over, our lives, like things like impulses. So to control those impulses, your frontal cortex or prefrontal cortex must be very strong. This is where now we also talk about willpower, because we are able to say, no, I'm not going to do this. So it means when you suppress emotions, it takes a lot from your willpower. It takes a lot from those, from that energy that you are supposed to use for creativity and for innovation. Now, that energy gets used, just for sitting on your emotions. Why is that important to understand? It's important to understand that as a leader in particular, because right now we talk about things like psychological safety in a workplace where people are able to express themselves. Why is that important? That is important because it frees that energy. Instead of that energy being used to suppress and to sit on emotions, and instead be used to create and to come up with new ideas that can advance the cause of the business. Because, for an example, no one comes to work in the morning, coming to work just to look ignorant or stupid. So that's why you find that in meetings people don't ask questions. Why? Because asking questions is associated, to being ignorant and actually being stupid. And that's where the problem is. As a leader, you need to turn that thing around to say, asking questions is something that is welcomed and that is embraced in an organization. And no one wakes up in the morning and decides to say, you know what, I'm going to be incompetent today. And now, for you not to look incompetent in a meeting, what must you do? And you end up not admitting to your weaknesses or mistakes that you've made. And it means you get to hide things. That's why you find that so many things get swept under the carpet. Why? Because people are so scared that when they come up and they admit to those mistakes, they're going to be labeled as incompetent. Now, because they don't want to look incompetent, they don't want to look ignorant, and they don't want to look nosy or intrusive, where they don't want to offer ideas, they just keep quiet, simply because they're scared that they will be labeled and be called names. And because of that, they end up coming up with this, self protection strategy, where they just sit and look all good and on all smiles, and you think that everything is okay. But when results are to be produced or delivered, that's when you get to realize that people become defensive, because they did not ask for some questions. They did not admit to their mistakes and their shortcomings. They did not even, share their ideas on what they think needs to be done. Now, companies end up closing doors because they missed out on those ideas. They missed out on those questions. They missed out on those admissions that people were supposed to make. So impression management is very dangerous. it steals from organizations. It steals more than people who are just stealing money, but it steals what is called human capital. Now, are you willing to transform your team and your organization from that thief, that criminal that we call impression management? Then if so, I am here to assist you. Then let's go on a journey together. Let's craft this intervention that's going to help your team and your organization advance towards achieving their goals. So I am here. Let's work together on this.